Hi guys, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 336. I'm Lisa, also known as Fibram on most of social media, and today is, excuse me, it's Monday, April 20th, and because it's a Monday, my husband should be sitting in here, right over there at his makeshift desk, working, but he's not because he had to go into his actual physical office today. At least for a little while. So one, I'm on borrowed time. I don't know when he's going to get back. It's like 10 in the morning. I'm kind of fingers crossed hoping I can get this recorded because I don't want to have to drag all this stuff somewhere else to finish up. But number two, it's only the second time he's had to go into the office in like a month, so I can't get too upset about it, I guess, although I still wish he didn't have to. But that's neither here nor there because he's there, I'm here, you're here. Welcome. How you doing? I hope you're doing well. Yep, kind of same old, right? We're still here. Week whatever, I don't even know. I've given up trying to keep track. It doesn't matter because it is what it is. And I'm very froggy all of a sudden. You can tell I just haven't been talking very much today. Gosh, excuse me. Hey, I'm wearing my Lineage Pullover. It's not done. You can tell, like, it's all puckered up on these little short needles, but I wanted to put it on and show it to you when I talk about it, and I'm not there yet. We're not ready to talk about it, but I just wanted to let you know, this is my Lineage Pullover. No, it's not done. That's why it looks really, really funny. Although as soon as I sat down and turned the camera on, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of orange. So, but I think it'll be fine. Anyway, let's do the beginning stuff first. I have an announcement that I was supposed to make on the last podcast and it totally went off my radar and I didn't. So let me make it right now up front. Emily from the Andrews Mill podcast, she is running some craft-alongs during this isolation time. She's calling them the not-so-isolated cows. So there's two different ones. One is a Stash Busters cal, and the other one is First In, First Out cal. You can read all about them over in her podcast group on Ravelry. I'll put the links in the show notes to her group and to the thread that talks about the different cals. So if you would like to take part in that, I'm sure she would really appreciate it. I know she's trying to, give us all opportunities to do things and have some community and camaraderie while we're all at home together. Or together at home. Did you watch the concert on Saturday? The Together at Home concert by Global Citizen? We enjoyed that. We watched the 2 hours that were in the evening. I watched part of the stuff during the day, but that was a lot of fun. So that was nice to watch. I hope you guys enjoyed it if you did. And if you didn't get to see it, I think you can stream parts of it on YouTube, like the Global Citizen channel on YouTube. Yeah, I think you can. Anyway, it was cool. Okay, I know I'm talking really fast, and I haven't had that much coffee because my husband drank a lot of the coffee today, and I didn't get as much, and I really am kind of bitter about that. I'm not. I should have made more before I sat down, but maybe not since I'm already talking fast. My poor monster is less than half full and has been reheated several times this morning. All right, let me tell you what we're going to talk about today, because I'll tell you what, I've got a lot of crafting. I've done so much crafting since I talked to you guys last. In fact, I'm not even going to be telling you everything because I don't have time and you don't want to listen to it all. And a lot of the projects are things that I'm like, I want to do this right now, or I want to knit with that right now. And so I'd start something just for that little hit of, oh, that's cool. And then I don't pick it up again. I probably will. Some of it maybe I won't. Some of them I'll rip out. But, we've talked about this before. Sometimes all you need is that little bit of satisfaction that you get from casting on a new project or touching a new yarn or something that's been in your stash and you just want to play with it. Like that Noro shawl that I started a few weeks ago. I haven't touched that in weeks, but I wanted to cast on with it, and that's really all I needed. Who knows if I'll ever finish it or not. Anyway, if you're doing that, please don't feel bad about it, because I think it is a completely legitimate use of your time and resources if it makes you happy. That's really important right now. You can always rip it out and not finish it. It's fine. But I do have things I have worked on and have finished. Not the sweater. I've worked on it, but it's not done. But we're going to talk about knitting. I have some crochet to show you. I have some spinning to show you. I know, it's been a while. I've got some weaving to talk about. I've got some sewing to talk about. That's like really random because I haven't been sewing at all, really. And I've got a new recipe, so there's been cooking. So buckle up. There's lots to talk about. Let's talk about the things that are finished first. And the first thing that is finished is a pair of socks, which you have seen before. Just finished the second one this morning, actually. These are my socks that I made out of the 2019 Monthly Makes exclusive colorway. So if for the people who finished the whole year of Monthly Makes program last year and qualified for the full year prize, this was it. This was the colorway. It's called Momentum. I knit mine on the bedazzled base, which you probably can't see sparkle here in this light today, but it's sparkly, trust me. So this was the Momentum colorway, and it shipped out with this little mini of this variegated color that is in between all the stripes, and that was called Surge. And so, yeah, those are my finished socks. Although it's funny because as I was putting them on the blockers to show you, I realized the one has a hole right there, and that's where I just didn't weave in well. That was where the contrast yarn got joined for the heel flap, so I just didn't do a good job of closing that up, so I will fix that. But they are finished. Just my basic 2x1 ribbed sock on US 1 needles. There's really nothing else to tell you about these. They're just finished. I don't think I'm going to cast any more socks on right now. Well, yeah, I'll go back to that in a second. So those are done. I have another pair of finished socks that you haven't even seen. Although I did talk about wanting to make them. And that was a pair of Shortie socks that I made by marling leftover fingering weight yarns together. So I did a pair of those. I love this one, especially. All the bright colors made me really happy. The second one isn't quite as bright, but they're not meant to be matching in any way. So I think I mentioned this at least a couple podcasts ago where I was planning to try doing a pair of essentially DK weight socks. When you do two fingering weights together, you get kind of a DK weight. Which is with my yarn scraps. I ended up using all Bounce. So these are all my colorways. I couldn't begin to tell you which ones I used really at this point, because when they're all marled together like that, it's really hard to pick out any one colorway. But there's a bunch of them in there, and I used US 2.5 needles, and I cast on 48 stitches. I will say these are quite roomy. Like, these would not be comfortable as socks worn inside shoes just because they're quite big. I didn't make them with that in mind, though. I made them with the intention of them being, you know, house socks, kind of like slipper socks or something to wear to bed on a really cold night because they're quite warm. Yeah, if I was going to wear them in shoes, like to use them as like a boot sock or something, I would definitely have to go down in stitch count. I don't think I would go down in needle size any further because this is a pretty sturdy fabric on the 2.5s. Now, Lindsay from A Wooden Nest podcast, she's been making these. Actually, that's where I got the idea to do these, because she's been holding fingering weight yarns together and making these, you know, marled socks. She uses US 2s. So I don't know, maybe she's a loose knitter or something, but I would have bulletproof socks if I used 2s, I think. But yeah, I would probably go down, I'd say at least down to 44 stitches, maybe even 42 stitches. It would depend on the stitch pattern I was doing, obviously, but somewhere in the low 40s I would probably do if I wanted these to fit snugly enough to wear inside a boot. I'm not 100% sure they'd be super comfy inside a boot, but I like these. I like the fact that these are going to be nice, warm socks in bed. Because that's when I wear Shortie socks a lot, is to bed at night. So, not much else to tell you about these other than, you know, I did about an inch of ribbing and then about an inch and a half of straight stockinette before I started doing the heel flap. Oh, I can tell you this. I did a garter stitch heel flap. I've never done that before. I always do slip stitch heel flaps. But I thought I'd try a garter stitch heel flap, and it's nice and squishy. Yeah, so nice and soft, and then just knit out and did my normal toe, and bam, socks. So now I'll pick back up with that thought that I was saying a minute ago. I'm not sure that I'm going to start any more socks right now. As much as I like having socks to work on when I'm like sitting at the table after dinner and we're just sitting around talking or whatever, I just don't need any more socks personally. And I don't know that any of my family members really need socks right at this moment. I could probably cast on another pair for Bill because his sock drawer is much more sparse than mine. So I could maybe start a pair of socks for him, but I may just work on, I have a hat on the needles. That was one of those things I started when I was just in a cast-on-ing kind of mood. Actually, that was on Easter. I decided to start that hat, and I haven't worked on it, and it's just going to be a plain slouchy hat. So maybe I'll work on that at the table for a while before casting on any more socks. I don't know. I just love knitting socks. That's the problem. Like, socks are literally my favorite project to work on. They always have been. So it's so hard for me to abstain from knitting socks, especially because I've got a lot of sock yarn too. Whatever. Okay, let's move on. I have one other finished object, and it's another thing that you haven't even seen. And this is another one of those projects that's just like, I want to knit that. I just want to play. So, you know, I have a thing for Tiny Owl Knits patterns. I've never really knit any of them, but I think they're adorable and lovely, and I think Stephanie Dosen is just such a hoot. No pun intended. Oh, wow, that was bad. Anyway, I was looking through her patterns on Ravelry, and I own tons of them. Like, I own her book, I own a ton of her single patterns, but I saw this pattern on there that was just a single pattern. It's one of her really old patterns, I think 2009, and it was a freebie, and it was for a seat cushion. It was called the Fairy Star Seat Cushion, I think. Oh, chair mat. That's what it was called, the Fairy Star Chair Mat. And I thought, oh, that's so cute. I want to make that. And so it called for super chunky yarn, which I don't have any super chunky yarn in my stash. But I have a lot of DK weight and worsted weight scrap. So I thought, well, if I hold two of those together, surely that will give me a super chunky weight. It doesn't, just so you know, it does not. Maybe a bulk. It's more like an Aran. I would say Aran weight. So I had to play with this pattern and go down needle sizes till I found one that really worked. So I landed on US 11s, and that was fine. And so I started knitting the pattern, and what you do is you end up making these two. I'm going to show you this in a second, but I'm trying to do the setup first here. You knit these two pads, essentially, these two 7-sided pieces, and then you crochet the edges together. So you have the right sides on either side of this chair mat, and they're crocheted around. And she said you can put padding on the inside if you want to, whatever. Okay, so I'm doing the first one. I'm like, this seems odd, because all of the rounds in this pattern, you start big and you decrease down. All of the rounds were decrease rounds. And I thought, that seems weird. But I was at a stage where I just didn't want to think about much. I thought, I'll just follow the pattern, see what happens. Okay, so I finished this first one, and it was just this wibbly wobbly piece of fabric. It was like, oh, this doesn't seem right. Like, I don't even think I could block this out to be flat. And so I started looking through other people's projects who have made this, and everybody was kind of having that same issue. Like, wow, this is weird. And also they turn out very small. Much smaller than what it was supposed to have turned out. And so then finally I came across somebody's pattern page or project page who said, you know, there's a problem with the pattern. These are all decrease rounds and there needs to be like a straight knit round in between each of these decrease rounds. That way you get the much closer to the right size and it's not so wibbly wobbly. I don't know that they use that word, but I'm using that word. And I said, you know, that kind of makes sense because that was sort of what I thought when I first read the pattern, but again, just decided to trust the pattern. So whatever, I had the one done and I thought, you know, I'm not going to rip this out because I marled a whole bunch of DK weight scraps together to make it. I thought I'm just going to make a second one this same way and I'll put them together and I'll stuff them and make a little cushion. And that's what I did. So here is my not a chair mat. This is not even a chair cushion because it's super tiny. So I'm calling it my Fairy Star cushion. Sure, why not? It kind of looks like some sort of sea creature, but not a starfish because it's only got 7 things, not 8. So maybe it's a mutant. We'll call it a mutant puffy starfish cushion. How about that? So this is the one side. This was the first side I did, and this is the second side. And again, I just marled a whole bunch of different yarns. This one I used a purple the whole way through, and there was a couple other yarns. Well, I guess just 2, because it went to here with the first one, and then the second one was a different color in the middle. But the other color I used on this side is the same the whole way through. This one, I marled a bunch of different colors together. So anyway, it was just fun. So I sat this morning and I did the crochet edge to join them together, and I crocheted all 6 of the 7 sides, and then I stuffed it, and I had a bunch of fiber from a braid that I had tried to use in my combo spin, and it just didn't work out. Something was wrong with the fiber. I don't know if I just had it too long and it was compressed and it kind of got matted and felted. I don't know. I just could not get it to spin well, so I didn't use it. And I've been saving it, and I figured I'd use it for stuffing for something, and so I used it for this because my original thought was, oh, I'm probably going to have to make a pillow form to put inside this because this is sort of loose fabric. I probably could have gone down, well, I did end up going down to 10.5s as I got smaller because I didn't have 2 11s. I was using my Licka interchangeables, and only the large set goes up to 11s. The small set goes to 10.5s. So I was using 10.5s, 2 circulars on 10.5s. We're going to have to talk about that in a second too. But anyway, I probably could have done the whole thing on 10.5s or maybe even 9s, to tell you the truth. I did add stitches since I went down in needle size and yarn gauge. I added, I think, 21 stitches because you're working in multiples of, 7 segments. So I added multiples of 7. Anyway, it's cute. I like it. It's just a cute little cushion. I did have the idea that I would maybe put a button in the center and boink it in like that, but I kind of like it just out like this. I don't think I'm going to do that. So there's my weird little cushion. Yeah, let's talk about needle sizes for a second, okay? A US 11 is an 8mm needle. A US 10.5 is a 6.5mm needle. That's 1.5mm size difference. And there is a US 10.75 and a US 10.85. Who comes up with this? Who? This is so random. It's just it's weird. Because if you look at other needle sizes, it's usually from a 1 to a 1.5 is maybe a 0.5 millimeter difference. I don't know that for sure. I'm winging that one, but still, it's not crazy jumps, and it seems very just whatever. We want to stick another size in there. Let's just give it a different number. It's odd. Anyway, that's just my little needle size rant. All right, so anyway, this was made out of just, again, all kinds of DK weight scraps. I used some Bonafide and some Beguiled, but it was all my Fiber Nymph Dye Works, stuff. Beguiled is the sparkly one, so you can see sparkle in there. Because I think a mutant puffy starfish has to have some sparkle. Alrighty, so that's everything I worked on that I finished. Let's move on to things I've worked on and have not finished. Let's do this. This is my Lineage Pullover. I have been working on this a lot at night, sitting in bed, because it's an easy project to work on. And here, I'll kind of stand up so you can see how far it is. So yeah, it's right, like my waistband is right here. So I'm about probably almost, well, I guess I am, right to the top of my waist. So it has another, like where this tank top is, I would say I'm probably going to bring it down to about here. So I've got a few more inches to go. So I probably should look into what to do, when to start the ribbing. Trying to think, does this have, I don't remember if this has a split hem or not. I could do a split hem. I just don't remember if the pattern calls for it. I don't think it does. It may have a low-high hem. I don't remember. Whatever. Anyway, I'm getting close to doing the bottom, which is great because I've used a whole lot of the yarn. You know, other funny thing here. Look, there's needles in here. Okay, we're going to segue here for a second. Or tangent. This is more of a tangent. Talking about needle sizes, because these are high needles, and high needles have the little US to metric chart on the back of them. All right, so a US 1 is a 2.25 millimeter. A US 1.5 is a 2.5 millimeter. That's a 1/4 millimeter difference. But when you go from a 10.5 to an 11, that is a 1.5 millimeter difference. That's just nuts. Just nuts. Very inconvenient. It's just like, I can't think of the word I want to use to describe the U.S. needle numbering system. Arbitrary. It seems very arbitrary to me. Maybe there's a system there, but I don't know what it is. Okay, so anyway, here's all my yarn. I'm definitely getting down there. It'll be fine because I'll just end up doing the sleeves as long as I can do them, and we'll be done. And the neckline's already done, so I don't have to pick up for that. As you can see, again, I have a tank top on underneath it just because it's not finished. I don't know that I will necessarily wear a tank top underneath this because I'm okay with this squared neckline being out here. What I really wanted to show you and talk about, though, geez, this is always hard. Okay, can I, maybe if I back this up, hang on, don't move. I'll move you. Okay, so there is a little extra blousiness here that I don't need. And it's also a little puckery, but it hasn't been blocked, obviously. But can you see this extra fabric? Now, obviously, that'll change a little bit once I do the sleeves. But when you see how much fabric is in the sleeves, I actually think there's probably a little more fabric here than I really needed. I probably could have stopped my raglan decreases a little earlier than I did, but again, I was following the pattern. I can't remember, I think for the size 48. Yeah, my gauge is fine. I have gauge, so that's not an issue with this sweater. And it is meant to have positive ease, so I'm not worried about that either. The linen, by the way, okay, let me give you the details. Lineage Pullover by Gabrielle Vizina. I'm knitting it out of Fiber Nymph Dye Works. Bonafide, or no. I have Bonafide written here. This is not Bonafide. This is Mountain Tweed. I should know my own bases, right? And this is one of my Serendipity sweater sets. So this will be a show sample at some point when I'm doing shows again. Yeah, I love the sweater and I love the pattern and I love how the yarns are working up. I just think it's a lot of fun. That Serendipity stripe in there, I mean, it does look more like a stripe because you don't see the mini stripings going on quite as much as you do here. And it's on the camera, it's actually less defined on the camera than it is in person. Like, I can see the striping more in person than I'm seeing on the camera. So, whatever. But yeah, right now, I just wanted to kind of show you where this was. I don't know. I may need to modify the sleeves a little bit because I don't want super big sleeves. I'd prefer for my sleeves to be a little more fitted. So it may just mean picking up fewer stitches in the armhole. Again, I haven't read the pattern that far ahead, so I don't really know what it tells me to do. But I may end up just kind of doing my own thing there to try to mitigate this extra fabric. It's certainly not as huge as like that C-Mark sweater that I just made. It's not like big like that. But it's roomier than I need it to be. The other thing though is I've also lost a little bit of weight since I cast this sweater on. and not like a ton of weight, but you know, sometimes just a little bit of weight makes a difference, especially depending on where you lose it first. And I always tend to lose it in my upper, like my boobs. My boobs is the first place I lose weight. So that could also be playing a role. I don't know. But anyway, I really like the sweater and I'm happy with the progress. And hopefully, maybe the next time I record, this will be a legit finished object, which means I'll probably wear it and then you'll be seeing me wearing the same sweater twice in a row. That's awkward. Actually, hopefully by the time I'm recording next time, it'll be so warm I won't be wearing this because I'll be dying of heat stroke. I would really like some warmth. It's cold today. It's not getting too warm. Well, I think it's going up to the 50s. We've had snow within the last week though, again. Enough already. Go ahead, lay down. Okay, I changed. I realized I forgot to bring one of my project bags in here that has something I wanted to show you. So since I had to go get it, I thought I'll take the pokey sweater off because the needle holder thingies were jabbing into my armpits and that hurt. So, and you know, I'm sitting here looking at my makeup. I'm like, something looks weird. I didn't put concealer on today, which is why I look like I have really dark bags under my eyes. It's weird. Sometimes my brain isn't completely focused on what I'm doing when I put makeup on. This is probably TMI. I don't know, or just something silly, but like I'll do my makeup and I'll realize, oh, I only did one eye. Or do you guys ever do that? Or you're taking a shower and if I don't do things in the same order as I usually do them, I'll get out of the shower and it's like, did I wash my hair? Like, I don't remember. And yeah, it's, sorry, I'm a little weird. But anyway, let's talk about the project I went and retrieved. We're moving on from knitting now into some crochet. Actually, the one thing I've been crocheting, well, this was what started my little crochet thing that I've been on, is Jen from Down Cellar Studio podcast mentioned in one of her recent episodes that she had been crocheting these solid granny squares, and I'd never heard of a solid granny square. And I love doing just granny squares and granny stripes, so I thought, ooh, maybe I'll try that. So I looked up the pattern, and it's a free pattern. Sorry, I thought maybe that was my husband. It's a free pattern on Ravelry from Lullaby Melodia. That's the name of the designer. And it was really cute. And I thought, oh, okay, that doesn't look hard. So I started doing them the way I thought they were supposed to be done. And they were okay. Here's one. But it was small and it was curly. Like it was curling up. And so I kept making them, thinking maybe if I just keep doing them, they'll get better. And they were still weird. And so I had been messaging with my friend Maria, who is Seductive Berry, who you hear me talk about because she's a member of our group too. Anyway, she's a really good crocheter, so I'm like, hey, I'm having an issue with these. These look funny, and I sent her a picture, and she's like, yeah, you're doing it wrong. She was actually very nice about it. She didn't just tell me I was stupid, although she could have. Anyway, so I guess what I've always done when I've done granny squares, and granny stripes for that matter, is when I'm doing the next row, like I go into the holes between my double crochets. You know what I mean? Like I go in there. And she told me, no, you're supposed to go into the stitches, like those top two stitches there, you know? Maybe you know if you know how to crochet. Anyway, I've never done a granny square that way, but I tried it and lo and behold, wow, look at that. It lays flat and it's bigger. You look how the size difference. So yeah, I mean, it looks very different done this way. I've never grannied anything this way. So I don't know. I don't know if it's just there's more than one way to do it. I mean, she said this is the way she learned how to do them. But this is the way I learned how, like from my grandmother. This is how she taught me to do granny squares. So I don't know. I honestly think part of the issue with this one though is I was using too small of a crochet hook, I think was part of the problem. And I think that might have something to do with it curling. I don't know. I mean, obviously I could have kept going, and if I would join these together, they would not be curly anymore. But I was happy to learn the correct way to do this particular one, because this actually does look like the ones on the pattern page by Lullaby Melodia. So this is correct for this particular square. I do know that. Anyway, after I did that, then I made a whole bunch more of these. I didn't bring them all in to show you because a lot of them were actually this color. So just imagine a whole pile of these. So I did these, and then I was like, you know, I think I could do something else. Maria empowered me by giving me that little bit of knowledge, that little bit of wisdom. I felt like I could move on to something more complex. So I went to a pattern that I've had in my queue for a very long time, and I never ever thought I would try to tackle it because I don't know much about crochet, but I have had people tell me that it's not as difficult as it looks. And that is the Lost in Time shawl by Joanna Lindahl. This isn't a full-size picture of it, but you've probably seen this. It's so complex looking, but I can tell you that it's actually not bad. The way the pattern is written, she writes out each row. Well, obviously she's writing the directions for each row, but she gives a lot of detail. Like at the end of each row, she tells you how many single crochets and how many chain stitches and how many whatevers you did in that row, how many you should have on each side of your triangle. Now, I don't know, I'm not super familiar with crochet patterns, so I don't know, maybe that's something all designers do in their patterns. I don't know. But I'm finding it very helpful that she has done it here. And also in certain sections, she's got pictures for what to do, which has also been very, very helpful. And then for some other things, like on the information page at the very beginning, for the abbreviations, she has asterisks next to certain things that she has explained on her website too. So I've got that page saved on my phone so I can look it up anytime. But I'm on row 14 now, and I think there's 26 rows. There are. Okay. So this is one of those shawls that you can just keep doing until it's as big as you want it to be. And by repeating rows 15 through 26. So once I finish 14, then I'm getting into the repeatable section of the pattern. I started out using one of my gradients. I seem to be insisting on using gradients for crochet things. So I started out using, it's one of my double gradients, and this is the Mountain Lodge colorway. And so I thought I would just crochet through the whole thing. But then I thought, no, I would like to have smaller segments of the colors. So I started just doing some color management on my own and breaking it up. But this is how far I am so far. So I started with the teal that was in the center. And then this is actually, it looks sort of brown, but it's actually a brownish green. So then the next color in the gradient is a brown, and then it goes out to this reddish color, and then it goes out to a darker brown. So anyway, I'm having fun with it. Isn't it pretty? It really looks like I know what I'm doing. But the fact that I learned that I'm supposed to go into those top stitches is totally what made possible for me to do this, because you have to do that on this. So I think it's cool. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it's the only thing I'm working on right now that I really have to pay attention to. Like, I can't be watching a podcast or talking to Bill or anybody while I'm doing this. I have to be able to sit and read and count. That is the thing. Like, I'm counting, and I've learned that it actually helps. Like, when I look at how many of something that I'm supposed to have at the end, it helps if I count ahead of time so that I know where I'm doing each of those things in that row that I'm working into. That's been helpful to me. So anyway, that's been that's been my project so far that I've been working on crochet wise, and I have no idea when it'll get done. Eventually it will be a show sample, but for right now I'm just doing it because it's fun and it's something new, and I'm trying to learn something new because why not? Not because it's the pandemic stay-at-home thing. I know everybody's like, oh, if you come out of this without having done something new or accomplished something, then it wasn't because you didn't have time. That's so much BS. You know what? Don't buy into that. Sure, we have time, but we're also like stressed and tense because this is a weird time. Do not put that kind of heavy weight on yourself. Just don't. Unless you really want to. But don't buy into that. Okay. That's my personal little PSA for you. Crochet. Okay, then there's been weaving. So we've had knitting, we've had crochet, now we have weaving. I did put the weaving videos up that I had promised you guys. It ended up being 2 videos instead of just 1 because it was so long. But I really tried to show every single step in my basic weaving process. Starting with the warping, going all the way through the weaving, to the hem stitching, to taking it off the loom. I really tried to give you like every angle of what I was doing so you could see it. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from those videos already, so thank you so much if you watch them and you like them. They aren't perfect. I am not a perfect weaver. I'm very new to weaving. Only been doing it for a year and a half or so. But I wanted to take my newbie experience and talk to other people who are maybe very new also, because sometimes I think that is a little bit easier to understand than listening to somebody who's assuming maybe you have a bunch of knowledge that maybe you don't, even about basic terminology. And it was funny because even after I finished recording it and while I was editing, I realized there were certain things, oh, like I assumed that you know what a warp is, like what that word means. I mean, a lot of people do, but maybe not everybody does. So I did explain it in the show notes part, but yeah, it's hard to not assume certain levels of knowledge once you know something. And that was what I was trying to avoid. Anyway, here's the piece I wove doing that. This is the second piece that I did using the minis that I spun from my holiday countdown collection from 2 years ago. So the first piece was much darker. This one I did over the holidays. And the weft thread, the weft yarn I used, they were all mostly darker until this part of it got lighter. And then these were all pretty much light, brighter colors. And so I have enough yarn to do probably one more strip of this. I have no idea what this is going to be. I've got some ideas, but we'll get there eventually. So yeah, so that was what I demonstrated in those videos. Again, they're up separately. It's called Let's Talk About Weaving Part 1, which covers just warping the loom. And then Let's Talk About Weaving Part 2 covers my weaving and me doing the hem stitch. So hopefully it'll be helpful to you. If you're a very experienced weaver, maybe don't watch. Because again, like, I don't know a lot about it, but I know enough to share. So, okay. So that was weaving. And I did actually warp my loom yesterday because I just didn't want to work. I needed a day off. I just wanted to take some time to myself and do fun things. So one of the things I did was I warped my loom, and I once again drew from my big bin of DK and worsted weight leftovers. And that's what I used to warp my loom. So this is all yarn, mostly bona fide. I think there's a couple colors that are on my cozy worsted weight base. But I just wanted happy colors, so that's what this is. This is my happy warp. I ended up with 6 strands of each of 12 colors in the warp, and then I'm doing those same 12 colors in the same progression going this way for the weft. However, I did figure out that even though there's 6 strands going warp-wise, it takes more than 6 passes of weft to get that same size so that I end up kind of with a square, which makes sense because I think it's kind of like how stitches are not the same size width-wise as they are row-wise. you know, whenever you're knitting. And I think the same probably applies to weaving. So I'm doing 8 passes with my weft as opposed to 6. And like you can tell, like this is definitely a DK weight because even though I'm doing 8, it's narrower. I don't care. It's just fun. And so I'm having a good time with that. No big plan for it. It will probably end up being another one of those fringy cows just because I really like making those. So, oops, let's hang on. Okay. Had to put that back. So that was weaving, and then there's been spinning. That was the other thing I did yesterday. So Joanna and her husband Bill from KnitSpinFarm, they did a virtual fiber festival this past weekend, which involved a bunch of things that they were doing on YouTube, like YouTube videos, as well as I think they were doing things on Instagram. I didn't really get to pay attention to it a whole lot over the weekend, and I think most of the things they did were Friday and Saturday. Yesterday, I don't think there was quite as much, but I sat down yesterday with my sidekick, because I've got a spinning project on my Traveler that I didn't feel like working on. But I decided to pull a batt out of my stash, my fiber stash, from when I was in her batt club, because I've got a few that I haven't spun yet. So I pulled one of the batts out, and I decided I was going to spin that while I watched all the videos from the virtual fiber festival, and that's what I did yesterday morning. It was so much fun. I will say it's been several months since I've spun, and sitting down at a wheel and just sitting and spinning for 2.5 hours after not spinning for quite a while is not a recommended thing, because I got up about an hour and a half in and I couldn't even move. My legs hurt so bad, like I had this cramp in my hip and my hands were like from holding the fiber. Yeah, you got to take breaks. Anyway, this is what I spun. Isn't it pretty? Now I left it as a singles. It hasn't been soaked or anything yet, so it will poof up whenever I do that. I decided to leave it as a singles, number one, because my other sidekick bobbin has something else on it right now. And even though I keep thinking I have a third sidekick bobbin, I don't know that I do. I go through this every time I do a project on my sidekick. I didn't look in my basket over there where I keep bobbins, so there could be a third one over there. But I feel like I looked in there one other time and there wasn't one, so I doubt one magically grew. It'd be nice if it would, because they're kind of pricey. But the other reason I just left it this way is because I kind of like doing singles sometimes. They're nice to knit with. I think I could weave with it as weft. And I really just liked how this looked. I didn't think it really needed to be plied. It's just so soft, and I mean, it's physically soft, but it has a nice soft look to it. It was the monthly batt club from August of 2018, and it's called Patisserie is the colorway, and I think it was, yes, it was inspired by the British baking shows. So it has Angelina, Corriedale, Merino, BFL, and Polworth in it. So it is a lovely, lovely fiber to work with, and it turned out super cute. And I ended up having to put bright pink ties on it because that was what I had handy. So anyway, that was my spinning. So what else? Oh, and then there was sewing. Sewing. Yes, folks, I sewed. I sewed masks. My hubby, he had to go to work today, and even though we have a couple of we have dust masks that he uses when he's doing dusty oriented things downstairs, so he could have worn one of those because they're required to wear a mask to work now, and he hasn't been in the office since that requirement was mandated by the governor, that if you are going to work you have to wear a mask. And so the companies are now required to provide masks, which that hadn't been the case prior. I'm glad it is now for a lot of people who weren't wearing masks because they didn't have them and their companies weren't providing them. Anyway, so he had a couple masks also waiting for him at work, but he needed to wear one to work. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to sew some just because I'd like to try sewing them, and I decided to do the pleated ones. I have the pattern for the fitted one also, but I decided those are overwhelming to me. So I didn't want to try that with all that contouring. I just thought I would do the easier pleated ones. I didn't follow a pattern. I recently watched Amy Beth's most recent episode, Fat Squirrel Speaks. On her most recent episode, she showed masks that she made, and she described how she made them. I don't remember if she followed a pattern specifically or not. I don't recall. But what I did remember is the dimensions that she had said she cut her fabric into, and pretty much that was all I needed, because I could then envision what I needed to do. Whoops. So I went through my fabric stash, and I've got a large fabric stash for someone who doesn't do much sewing. A long time ago, when I first started Fiber Nymph Dye Works, I also made project bags. Do any of you remember that? I had a lot of fabric left over from project bags, and some of it I think I actually had cut out to make project bags that I never made, and they actually ended up being the right dimension in one way. They were all 12 inches, and Amy Beth said she used 12-inch by 9-inch pieces to make her things. These were already 12 inches, so I just had to cut them into 9-inch segments, and we were ready to go. So this was my first one. This was like my prototype. So I have 2 layers of fabric. Aren't they cute? I love the polka dots. Anyway, I've got 2 layers of fabric, and so I sewed those together. Again, I didn't use a pattern, so I'm just briefly telling you what I did. So I had right sides together, sewed around the edges, leaving like maybe a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And I left enough of a gap open that I could turn it right side out, and then I went and I ironed all around it and tucked the rest of that in, and that was up here, this segment up here. And so I knew I was going to be putting a strip in on the inside where I could put wire, and for my wire I'm using, I thought this was very clever of me, even though maybe I heard it somewhere else. I don't know that I'll be able to get it out to show you. Hang on. Will you come out? There we go. I'm using twist ties. These are double twist ties, 2 of them. And actually 3 or 4 would probably be even better. But we hardly ever use twist ties, but we've got bazillions of them. And they just slide right in there. And they do a good enough job of just kind of helping that contour around your nose and stay put. So I thought that was clever. So anyway, twist ties. You can also use pipe cleaners. Amy Beth said that's what she's using, is pipe cleaners. I didn't have any pipe cleaners around, but I had twist ties. So I did that, and then I did, I made my pleats. That was probably the hardest part of this whole thing, was getting the pleats even. And I'm sure there's probably a template out there somewhere to do it more evenly. I was just winging it though. So this first one is actually a little too wide. This is probably about 4 inches. And my second one that I made, I pleated it so that it was only 3 inches. And that works much better, because then that allows this part to come down, but this part is still closer into your face. Whereas on that first one, it gapped more down here. So I did that, and then I had elastic that I could have used, and I tried that on this first one. But what I realized about elastic is you really kind of have to know how big your facial features are for the person who's going to be wearing it. Because I did look that part up on like Pinterest or something just to see how long they were recommending to cut like the little ear loop elastics, and the one I looked at said 6 inches. Well, I did 6 inches, and I put it on here, and it was hanging way off. Like, it was like this. Like, and the other one wouldn't have been around my ear at all. So I guess maybe I have a small, I don't know, whatever. That didn't work, and I thought, I don't want to waste elastic doing this. And obviously it takes way more elastic if you want to do the ones that go around your whole head. And so I didn't want to do that. So I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'd seen this done. I don't remember if it was on Amy Beth's or on somebody else's, where you put these little gussets in, not gussets, casings in, and I've seen them done different ways. I just used bias tape, because that was the other thing. I had lots of bias tape for some reason. I had this red bias tape, and then I have black bias tape, which I used on the one my husband has. But anyway, I just sewed the bias tape in. Up here I did it on 3 sides to stick those twist ties in, and then here I just did it on the 2 sides. And this is just yarn, and I was just using this to try to figure out if this would work, and it does. So I have it looped down one and up the other, so this part goes around your neck, and then these upper ones can tie around your head. So what I then ended up doing, I made 3 of these. So that was my prototype that wasn't perfect. This was my second one that works much better, and then I made a third one, which is the one my husband has, and his has little, I'll put the picture in here. The little paw prints, aren't they cute? For his, we have a whole bunch of this too, apparently, actually, my husband did. It's like parachute cord. It's not the elastic kind, like not the shock cord, although we have some of that too, and I might try that, because that almost might work too, because that would give you elasticity and you know, the ability to adjust it to the right size. I'm not sure, but we put this in his. I haven't put it in mine yet, but I'll show you what I did, because I've got a few of these cord locks, just random ones hanging around. And so I put a cord lock on his, and I have it on here now. It doesn't work super well with the cotton. This is just cotton, dishcloth cotton. But anyway, this allows you to like put it on this way, and then you can cinch this in, and then put this over your head. This is awkward. Okay, now these have to go over my ears, which is hard when my hair's down. Yesterday when I was making these, I actually had my hair pulled up with a hair clip, which helped it stay in place. But yeah, if these go over my ears without my hair in the way, it works better. So anyway, the twist ties keep my nose in place, and because this is only the 3 inches, that stays up where it needs to be. It doesn't gap, and I can pull that down, and it works really well. I'm super excited that this worked out as well as it did, especially since I did not have a pattern. I think it works really well. And it's pretty. And because I'm using this little thingy, oh God, why can't I keep the name of that in my head? Cord lock. I don't have to worry about tying my hair into the string by tying it, but you totally could just use ties. And, you know, have it long enough to make a bow or whatever. That would work too. But since I had a few of these on hand, and I actually think I have a whole bunch of them somewhere, because I used to use them on those project bags I made. I just don't know where they're at. Other than that, I don't really think I have anything else I'm going to share with you in Knit 90% this week. 10%. My new recipe that I'll tell you about that I really, really enjoyed is it's called vegan buffalo chickpea salad. So good. I made a little batch of it because I cooked a whole bag of chickpeas, and it was really good, and that was my lunch for a few days. And then I used some of the other chickpeas to make another recipe that really didn't turn out so great. I think I'll try it again, but differently. So I won't tell you about that one right now. But then I had all the rest of the chickpeas. I'm like, I'm just making a giant batch of this salad. Because honestly, it's almost like buffalo chicken salad without the chicken. That's what it kind of reminds me of. And I was sort of lamenting the fact that I wouldn't be able to eat chicken salad anymore. And I love chicken salad. I make really good chicken salad. But that's one of the very few meat things that I've actually been missing. And it's not like I made chicken salad all that often. I made that. It was really good. So I have this huge batch of it, which I think I've got like maybe one more lunch worth of it left. And then I won't be eating it for a little while because, you know, even good things you can have too much of. But I did make another big batch of my vegetarian cheese or vegan cheese sauce yesterday. That stuff I really love. Put that over pasta with some sauteed veggies. Totally yummy. Other than that, 10%, I just wanted to tell you about something I bought. Audubon encyclopedias from eBay. There's a story behind this. When I was a kid, my parents got me a set of these Audubon encyclopedias. I was elementary school, probably early elementary school actually, and I am quite sure that it was my dad who initiated the fact that I should have these Audubon encyclopedias, because he was always the one who was, encouraging me and teaching me about nature stuff. And so because I asked my mom about these, I'm like, do you remember those Audubon encyclopedias I had as a kid? And she's like, vaguely. So I know it was my dad's deal. And I also got Ranger Rick magazine as a kid too. Is that still around? I don't know. Anyway, I was thinking about these recently because I was watching Nicole on the Gentle Knitter podcast, and she was doing a Q&A episode, and she was talking about some of her favorite nature oriented books and drawings, books with nature drawings and everything in them. And they were so cool, and I kept looking them up because I was thinking, well, maybe I could get some of those, and some of them are pricey, and I just thought, I just don't need these books. They're pretty to look at, but I don't need them. I'm like, I have those Audubon encyclopedias, and they had wonderful drawings and photos and everything. They're from the mid-60s is when these were published. I say I had those. Yeah, I got rid of them. And I remembered that I got rid of them after I had that thought. It's like, oh yeah, I don't have them anymore, because it was either right when I was packing to move, or maybe it was even before that. They'd been shuffled around so much I wasn't using them. My kids weren't using them. And finally, I think they just got put in like a giveaway pile. And I have regretted it ever since. It's one of those things I've gotten rid of, and I'm like, shoot, I wish I would have kept those. Even though I wasn't using them and they were kind of collecting dust, I really wish I would have kept them. So on a whim, I went on eBay one day recently, and I thought, maybe somebody's selling some. There was a bunch of them, actually, a bunch of sets. So I'm not the only one who has them laying around. And mine were quite beat up too. I mean, you can see these are stained and everything, and this is pretty much what mine looked like. I know this isn't my set because I had written my name in the front of my set as a kid in my child scrawl. Anyway, I ordered them. $27, I think. I got the set. There's 12 of these in the set. $27, $18 for shipping because they are not light. And now I am a happy owner of the National Audubon Society encyclopedias once again. And I brought this one in to show you because it's the first one that covers AC through BE. And I remember as a kid, this was my favorite volume because of this one entry for amphibian. The amphibian entry. I love this entry because of this one drawing in here. The life cycle of a bullfrog. See this drawing? I copied this drawing. Like, not traced it with tracing paper, but I actually looked at it and copied it and drew it out, recreated it dozens and dozens of times as a kid. I was fascinated with the life cycle of a bullfrog. I don't know why. I think it probably has something to do with the fact that when my dad would take walks, he would sometimes find little puddles or ponds that had tadpoles in them. And a couple of times I remember him bringing tadpoles home to me because he would take a container with him and bring them home. And so I raised tadpoles into little hopping frogs and got to watch them change and, get their little back legs and then get their front legs, and they lose their tail. And I just had such great memories of that. And I love this illustration, and I made copies of it a million times. And so this is, I actually think when I got rid of my set of encyclopedias, I think I kept volume 1. I don't know where it's at, but somewhere I think there may be another volume 1, which is sort of silly. But a lot of the sets that were on sale on eBay were not complete sets. They were missing a volume here and there, so I wonder if maybe other people did the same thing and they kept their favorite volume. I don't know. But yeah, this is my latest purchase, and it's silly, but I love it, and I'm so happy to have it now. Okay. we're going to move on to some shop news now. I have restocked a bunch of things in the shop recently. Some of them I think are already in there, and some I'll be putting in before this video goes up. So they'll all be there by the time you see this. I restocked my Shetland spinning sets. They've been in there for a while, but they were pretty much all sold out except the toxic green ones. So I re-dyed the Mirth, the Reverie, and the All the Golds colorways. So those are 6-ounce spinning sets. There's 2 ounces each of a gray Shetland, a Moret, which is a reddish brown, and then the black. So 2 ounces of each that have been over dyed in one of those colors. So same color dye on each of those 3 colors of fiber gives 3 very different looks. And so each set has a total of 6 ounces. So those are all restocked. I did a restock of my Ryoko wrap kits. I've got some color combinations in there that I've never had in there before. I used to just do the kind of tonal colors, semi-solid or tonal colors. So now I have some other more variegated colors in there, so you might want to check those out if you're looking for a kit to do. I also put new Allentown hat kits in there. That's the color work kits that use my ridgetop fingering weight base. I put some new color combinations in there of those. And I also restocked the Color Play #2 semi-tonal colors. That's actually, I didn't dye more of them, but whenever I did the virtual Allentown show, I thought I had put all of my show inventory of those into the shop and like changed the quantity numbers, what was already in there. And I apparently did some, but I didn't do all of them. So all of them have been restocked now. So there's more of all of those colors on Sunshine, on Fluff, and on Pouf, the little slubby base that I have. The new slubby base. I don't know why I called it little. It's a full 100-gram skein. So all of those are restocked. There's more of those in there if you were looking for those. So since I had so much of the semi-tonals, I know I'm calling, you don't usually hear semi-tonal, but they are tonals, but they're a semi-solid kind of tonal. Okay. Since I had so many of those in stock now, I pulled some of them out and I created mini sets with them. So I've got mini sets in Sunshine, so all 5 of those semi-tonal colors are in there, as well as the variegated colors. So there will be 6 mini skeins in each of those packages of the minis. So I've got minis on Sunshine, but I also did minis up on Pouf. So if you want to try the slub base that's in there now, you can try that with minis. Again, all 5 of those semi-tonal colors and the variegated. I think that's so pretty. I just love this base so much. I'm getting ready to cast on a top in this base. Hopefully I'll have that to show you next time I record. And anyway, lastly, I also did minis of Fluff, the mohair base. I'm not gonna lie, this was really kind of a pain in the butt to wind off these itty bitty little, these are all 10 grams. The other ones are 20 grams, but Fluff skeins are only 50-gram skeins, so these are each 10. But they're sort of, that mohair just makes rescanning into smaller skeins a little bit trying. But I did it for you because I wanted you to be able to play with these colors if you wanted to. So again, all 6 of the colors, the 5 semi-solid, semi-tonals, and the variegated. I really like this variegated on Fluff. It's just so pretty. Okay, so anyway, those sets of minis will be in there as well as the full skeins. And then the other thing, this isn't so much a restock. It is for a couple of colors, but I've got some new colors here for it as well. There will be I did some more twist. You guys really seem to like this base because I can't keep it in the shop. So I dyed up some more of the original 2 twist colors, which is Forever in Blue Jeans and Aren't You Whiny. So those will be in there. And this is 100% non-superwash wool that has this great, the ply is, one is a natural color and the other one has this twist of this dark colored fiber, natural colored fiber. that goes from the dark to the gray to the light. And it just adds so much depth, and it's a lot of fun. So those two original colors will be in there. Then I did a couple new colors. This one isn't completely new. This is actually my Northern Lights colorway that I used to do a long time ago. I haven't dyed it in quite a while because I don't have some of those dyes that I originally used in stock anymore. So I did this using colors that are as close to those original colors as I could get. So it's slightly different than the original, but it's going to look different on this base anyway. So this is Northern Lights on twist. And then I did this one just because I love these colors together and I wanted to see what it would look like on this base. So I'm calling this Fire, because it's got an earthy red and orange and a goldish orange in it. And then I tried another one that didn't quite work out. I'm probably going to put this one up at a discount because it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, and it's going to just be a one of a kind. But it's got red and then this real dark charcoaly gray. And then there's another gray in here, but the gray ended up turning more of a blue, kind of a grayish blue than the gray. And it's got some blue speckling on that stripe as well. So I'm going to discount this one, but it's still fine, and I think it'll look really pretty knit up. It's just not one I'm going to repeat. So those will also be in the shop. Speaking of old colors, like former colors of mine that I haven't dyed in a long time. I mean, I've been dyeing for 9 years. I've got hundreds and hundreds of self-striping colorways that I've done over the years. I'm planning to do Throwback Thursdays. I think I'm going to start dyeing up some of my popular colors from yesteryear and just putting them in the shop on Thursdays. Not this Thursday coming up, but I don't know. I think it'll be fun because I have a lot of customers who didn't follow me back when I first started, and there was some colorways that like everybody always wanted way back then, like my Fruit Loops colorway. That was one. Soft Kitty. Trying to think what else. TARDIS. I don't know. There was a bunch. There was a bunch that I just remember dyeing over and over and over and over because everybody always wanted them. So I think I might start dyeing some of my older colorways again. If there's an older colorway that you know of that you'd like to see in the shop again, let me know. Put it in the comments of the video and I'll add it to my list of ones to think about dyeing for Throwback Thursdays. Those won't be every Thursday and they won't be, you know, full updates. It'll just be like Thursday I'll pop in an old color here and there. I think it'll be fun. So anyway, I'm also going to try to start releasing some of my former club exclusive colorways and other exclusive colorways like event colorways. I've got some that have never gone into the shop. Anyway, you can always stay up to date on what's going in the shop from my Instagram feed and my Facebook page, the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Instagram feed, the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Facebook page, and when I do larger restocks like this, I usually send out a newsletter as well. So if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, that's a great way to find out. So maybe subscribe to that. And again, just a couple reminders. I am offering free shipping to U.S. destinations for orders of $50 or more. Planning to do that at least through August this year. And just also a reminder that I'm having to stagger shipping on days that I've got a lot of orders. So shipping may end up taking a day or two longer than you're used to, but it's just because I'm trying to avoid any trips to the post office that I do not absolutely have to make, just for safety reasons all around. So I think that's everything. I hope you guys have a great next week or two until I talk to you again, and stay sane, stay safe, keep crafting, and do what makes you happy. Talk to you later. Bye.